you've never missed a card, so you might have more of. Well, I guess Jake Paul's still brand new to the fight scene, but tell us about Tyron Woodley. Like, how is he as a UFC fighter, and how do you think that that's going to transfer over into the boxing ring?
So if we're talking long-term career, amazing. The guy was up like pound for pound regards as #1 in the welterweight division, right next to GSP. You know what I mean? So the guy is top tier, Hall of Fame legend. Now a lot of people like to hold on to his last 4 fights, you know, because he was on the opposing end of those from the wins. So he's 4 losses out from his career, and a lot of people hold that over his head, but they don't really realize, I think, that they've come from everybody in the top 3 of the UFC welterweight division, what most will classify as the top pound-for-pound promotion in the entire world. So they might still have it mistaken that they're not. He might be the washed-up Tyron Woodley to some per se, but this guy's still a top 5. If you want to be nice about it, at least top 10 welterweight in the entire world to this day. You know what
Currently,
I mean? So let's not lose sight of that. You know, going into this fight.
So the thing that I was trying to wrap my mind, over with sort of the Ben Askren fight, but especially with this fight, because as you're speaking, Tyron Woodley is still considered probably top 10 to this day in his his weight class. We've got jiu-jitsu, you got ground and pound, you've got every type of fighter, whether it's GSP or the Diaz brothers in the UFC. What style in the UFC was Tyron Woodley?
Wrestler,
okay.
Yeah. Predominantly wrestling, but he transferred definitely in the middle of his career, I'd say, to striking. Fell in love with that overhand right. He got a lot of finishes with that. Like I said, in the latter half of his career, definitely slowed down. He definitely fought a lot smarter, which isn't always the best for the fans, but he got the job done. Not majority of the time, like I said, until the last 4 fights of his career.
So then if he's taking away the aspects of everything else, right? Obviously, when you're in the octagon, you need to watch out for leg kicks, and you need to look out for elbows and takedowns and grapples and all this. It's no longer just striking. Do you think this is going to be an easier fight for him per se, because he's so used to monitoring everything and now he needs to just focus on one aspect of fighting? How do you think he's going to go into this fight against Jake Paul?
A couple ways to look at this. So Jake has trained 4 years straight. I mean, in the one discipline of boxing. So when you're a mixed martial artist, you're like you said, you're training jiu-jitsu, wrestling, depending on types of wrestling. You might, depending on your striking background, karate, Muay Thai, boxing, and so forth. So there's so many disciplines across the board that it's hard to really focus on the one. And that being said, when it comes to Tyron Woodley, how much time has he put into the boxing? Because I know anyone can call it, say, an excuse for the latter half of his career was being undisciplined and going out in these other avenues, whether it be music, acting, or whatever else he was dipping into. I know he was doing a lot, and he accredited his downfall to it. So when I see in the All Access, let's say, it shows Jake Paul coming out of going into an ice bath, talking, hungry, talking about these are the things that you need to do right now to sharpen your mind and, get to that next step mentally in the discipline aspect. And then the next scene, it cuts to Tyron in the recording studio.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I'm like, I want him to take this serious, because this is a huge, huge opportunity for him to, fill his bank account that he has mentioned that is lacking at the current moment, and B, to actually revitalize the last half of his career that he had in the UFC and to propel him to the next step. You know what I mean? And totally. More opportunity for him to make more money and get him back to where he needs to be. But when it comes to the one discipline, like you said, revert back to the question you said, he has fought nothing but champions for the last how many years?
Yeah.
So this is almost second nature for him. I'll be excited to see how he comes out. But like I said, as of right this second, I would probably say Jake Paul's a better boxer than Tyron Woodley.
Wow. Okay.
When I saw technique wise, Tyron's crisper, but I mean, age, speed, power, it all
totally.
does come down to something at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I believe Tyron still has his power, it's the last thing to go, but speed. Can he get out of the way?
It's a huge
And
factor,
can he? Yeah. It's hit and not be hit. That's the game of boxing. It's a totally different sport than MMA, and a lot of people misconstrued that when they see these two. When they see a fighter from MMA come over to boxing and collide, they just believe it's going to be the whole range. Everything's completely different. So
it's
just up in the air.
Checkers,
Well, that's it. And this one's up in the air. The Askren one, I knew he wasn't coming out on top of that. I had told you that. I said. There was no way. He just got done hip surgery and all that. But this will be
Ben
a true
Askren
test.
looked like he was a plumber that just came off the 12-hour shift. So, but I'm glad that you brought up the All Access and more specifically Tyron Woodley in the studio, because as you and I had talked on the Dustin Taylor podcast, which you and I do every week, you had mentioned that while yes, Jake Paul is hungry, not having money is also going to make you extremely hungry and fight for your family and fight for yourself, which is, what kind of led me to believe that Tyron Woodley is going to win this fight.